Hello everyone, welcome to another video. So it's that time again where I get to use awareness periods and such. There's a cat already clawing at my door. Already. Time where I get to use awareness periods and days and such to talk about asexuality again. This time it's Asexual Awareness Week. I think that was its former title. Now it's just shortened to Ace Week, but for those not always in the know, can be confusing. So, yeah, I'm here again to talk about that. I have previously made a video about it in April. I will be covering similar stuff in this one to that one. That one was a lot more of just an incoherent ramble. I still said, like, there's nothing I said in it that I don't really... I still agree with everything I said, but I just think it could have been much better. But if you want to check that out, you can. I'll probably have a bunch of links in the description for this video. But feel no pressure. This one will be self-contained. So, yeah. I'm also gonna like timestamp this one because I'm covering myths and misconceptions, but I will try to not repeat myself between them, even if they do, like, even if certain points can apply to multiple of them, which they probably will. So I'm gonna try not to repeat myself in this video though, and like be specific in what I'm saying for each one. So I recommend watching it all, but also the timestamps are there if you want to jump around a bit. So yeah. To start, though, I wanted to do a little bit of a glossary of terms, just because I know that for some people who are not fully aware, or just need a refresher, if you're new or need a refresher, I wanted to kind of start by just addressing terms, because I didn't want to get into those as the myths themselves. So I'm going to throw the glossary up on the screen right now. I know, editing, it's amazing. So to start, asexual means someone who experiences little to no sexual attraction, or in specific circumstances. Aromantic, I'm not going to be talking about a lot in this video, but I just wanted to cover it because there can be some confusion. Aromantic is experiencing little to no romantic attraction. Now, that'll be covered in another time, but I still just wanted to make sure that was aware. Sorry for the door creaking. Jocelyn already wanted out again. And now Twiggy wants out. It's just a party. Allosexual and alloromantic, but that's not as relevant right now, is just the fancy way of saying people who do experience that attraction. So allosexual, people who do experience sexual attraction. So yeah, then a couple others. Just sexual attraction is a very difficult thing to define, but generally it is finding someone sexually appealing and wanting to have sex with them. And libido is distinct from attraction. We'll get into that more. But libido is just the body's biological and physiological sexual response more than anything. Or at least libido is more tied to the physiological and biological aspects of sex rather than psychological. So yeah. I don't exactly know where I'm throwing it in there, but ace and aro are just the common shorthands for asexual and aromantic. So if someone says they're asexual, or if it's like aces, asexual people. And then queer is just a general way to refer to people who are LGBTQ+. The Q is queer. Some people use that as an identity unto itself, and some people just use a general term. It can be used in a variety of ways. In the past, it's been kind of derogatory, but it's been reclaimed since then and is now just a term used in the LGBTQ+ community. Also, something I wanted to note is that asexual and aromantic, but right now asexual, it can either be an identity unto itself, that like someone can identify as ace or asexual, but it can also be an umbrella term just for the asexual spectrum as a whole, because it is a spectrum. And it can just encompass smaller identities as well. So someone can be, I'll cover two micro labels that I covered in the last one, but demisexual is experiencing sexual attraction in very specific, demisexual is experiencing sexual attraction once there has been a close emotional bond. It's not wanting to get to know someone before you have sex with them. There's that's not the same. There is no attraction until there is that bond there. In gray, asexual is just kind of a general term for people who experience some sexual attraction, but it is still to a lesser extent than allosexual people. Both of those completely valid on the ace spectrum, completely valid as asexual. But yeah, so asexual can be used as an umbrella for like both of those and all the other micro labels, or it can be an identity itself. So just wanted to cover that because the words get thrown around a lot. They can be a little tricky. So now to the myths. The first one we're going to cover is that aces feel nothing sexual. Spoiler alert, all these myths are false. So this one's false. I already touched on it, but kind of get into it again. It's the distinction between libido and the body's biological and physiological aspect of sex and sexual response, and the psychological aspect of finding someone sexually attractive. Those are two distinct things, and that is the distinction. Libido is more controlled by hormones and the body's natural reaction to things, and attraction is all to do with finding other people attractive. And it's so difficult to explain attraction of any kind because it is so specifically human and so specifically tied to the person who is the target of it and the person who's feeling it. But there is a very strong distinction. So libido is not tied to attraction. So there's allosexual people who will have low libidos. There's asexual people that can have high libidos. Doesn't matter. Oh, I did do libido, right? Libido can also be known as sex drive. At least it's been referred to as in the past. So yeah, that's basically all I have to say about that one, is that it's just not true. Jocelyn is already coming back in. Libido and hormones and sex hormones and that are distinct things from attraction, and asexual people will still have those things, and it can be in the exact same different ways as allosexual people. So yeah, there's nothing broken about aces in that way. The next one that I want to cover is that asexuals are celibate, choose to have nothing to do with sex, or are religious. I want to cover the last one first, just because it's the easiest to kind of knock out quickly. There's no significant link at all to asexuality and people who are religious. I think it's mostly a myth because of purity culture and the idea that, sex is something to be borderline feared until, you're in a heterosexual monogamous marriage. And even then, it's a horrible thing. Purity culture is horrible. This is not the place that we're talking about that, though. But regardless, that idea of asexual people generally not being as interested in sex, I think comes from purity culture to some degree, or at least doesn't come from that. What am I exactly saying? It fits into that idea, kind of, for some people at least. So, but no, there's absolutely no link between asexual people and being religious or of any faith. Any person with a queer identity can be religious or have a faith system. There's no significant links specifically in asexuality. Similarly with celibacy, there's no links. And some asexuals choose to engage in sexual activity, and that's perfectly valid. Asexuality isn't about never having sex. That's celibacy. Asexuality is not experiencing sexual attraction. That's kind of the name of the game. And I know I tried to describe sexual attraction as best I could, but it's just not having that innate, I want to have sex with this person, attraction in that kind of way. Asexuals can still have can still experience sexual arousal, which is just the body physiologically being like, okay, we're preparing for something sexual. They can still have sexual desire, which is just generally being interested or wanting sex. And then attraction is kind of the, like, what I have described. So asexuals can experience arousal and desire, but they don't experience attraction. There's a really, really good video that I'm going to link in the description that talks about all of this, not even necessarily from an asexual perspective, but just, I can't actually remember if the video is made by someone who's ace, but like regardless, it talks about the terms really, really well. So yeah, it is a bit longer, but if you do have the chance to check it out and you are like still a little bit confused, I think it's really helpful. It's also really helpful just to be able to communicate how you are feeling sexually, because there are distinctions. Yeah. So yeah, and individual asexual people will have different attitudes towards sex. It's like they can experience like arousal, desire, whatever, but there's also individual attitudes that they can have towards sex. So there's sex averse or sex repulsed, which is people who are just not interested in sex in any capacity, really. Sex indifferent, which is just not really being interested, kind of take it or leave it. And sex favorable, which is people who are actively interested or open to sex in their life or sexual activity of some kind. There's a good AVEN article, asexual. What is it? What does the acronym stand for again? Asexuality Visibility Education Network. Some along those lines. There's a good article that talks about that. It's distinct from sex positive and sex negative, which are kind of how you societally view sex. But regardless, that article will also be in the description if you're interested in that. So my throat is already getting dry. So yeah. So now we come to the third myth, and this is one of the biggest ones. Asexuality is a phase. Now, this is a very common one used for erasure of just asexual identities and that. And there's an analogy I really like using, not necessarily an analogy, but just a way of phrasing it that I really like using. And it's like it's going up to someone who's like, say, heterosexual, and telling them, "Oh, you'll grow out of it. It'll change. You know, it could always change. You know, it's a phase. Maybe you'll grow out of it." Will they? Probably not. They could. Any attraction or identity can change over time. We're all human. We change. But is it likely to change? Not really. Most people wouldn't say that their heterosexuality or homosexuality or whatever sexuality is like up in the air a lot. Most people have a pretty firm idea of where they land on that. Or a lot of people, not most necessarily. Some people are on their own journeys, but like a lot of people would say that they're pretty fixed in where they are in that, and that's fine. But it's the exact same thing with asexuality. It's still a sexuality unto itself, even if it is not experiencing attraction. That is still a way of experiencing sexual attraction. Not experiencing it is a way of experiencing it, or experience it in specific circumstances or to a lesser extent. Those are ways of experiencing it. So the idea that asexuality is this thing to be grown out of is just difficult to wrap your head around when you think about it too hard. Like, another thing I like to use is the idea that we're so comfortable, you know, going up to like a little boy and being like, "Oh, he's gonna be such a hit with the ladies when he's older," you know, "Oh, chick magnet" and all that. But then when like a teenager, whatever, like, however, like someone who is still relatively young, will be like, "Yeah, I'm comfortable identifying as asexual and aromantic," and we're like, "Oh no, you can't be that. You can't have had it figured out yet," or anything like that. Like, what is the difference in that? Like, there's obviously some difference of like the attraction, like for allosexual people it's experiencing that attraction, but it's still, you have a enough experience to comfortably identify with those things. So why is it different for asexuality if they have enough experience of not experiencing that sexual attraction in other instances when people would have? Why are we so quick to erase their experience and like talk down to them and be like, oh, you'll grow out of it, oh, it'll change, oh, this, that, whatever? Why are we so quick to do that? It's really frustrating because that's one of the most common ones. Also, one that gets thrown around is that asexuals are immature and just haven't figured out their feelings, which again isn't true. Anyone can be confused about their feelings. If anything, having the label and the identity of asexual brings more clarity to what you're feeling and allows you to better explain what you are feeling. This is the one that gets me because it is very frustrating to hear. And you don't have to be the one to tell an asexual person that their feelings can change over time. They don't need to be the one to... You don't need to tell them that. They know that. They know that they're not fixed into this one frame of mind. And if they do need to hear that, they're going to hear that from either a friend or, like, someone who is on their side in that perspective of, like, a journey, not coming at it from, like, the you can't be asexual because that's just a phase. Like, for some people who at periods of their life identify as asexual, it will not be the fit for them either forever, or it wasn't quite the right fit then. But that is the exact same as any label. Like, people who originally identify as, like, heterosexual and then become bisexual, or homosexual and become bisexual, or, like, bisexual and pansexual, and, like, figuring out what is best in there. It's the same thing of an identity is valid for a time, even if you don't identify with it for all of your life. It's not a phase in that sense if it was accurate to how you were feeling at that time. But also, for a lot of asexual people, it's not something that's going to change in that way over time. So, I could keep going on, but I feel like I'll just start repeating myself, and I feel like I already have. So, I'm going to stop there. And then the last one, it's just a bit of a sillier one, is that asexuals just don't love, or just are cold-hearted, regardless, like antisocial, anything around that of, like, oh, asexual people are, you know, like, unapproachable and hate society and all that. Like, that's not true. Society, the way it is built, prioritizes sexual and romantic love above other forms of love, but that doesn't mean that they're more important or of a greater value than platonic love or familial love or like different kinds of bonds. That doesn't mean that romantic and sexual bonds are like the be-all end-all of relationships. And asexual people can still want romantic relationships. Those are two distinct things. Sex and romance are two distinct things. That's why there's a whole thing. That's why there's a distinction between being asexual and aromantic, because those are different attractions and whole different ball games. Someone who is asexual can be alloromantic. Someone who is aromantic can be allosexual. Someone who is allosexual can be alloromantic, etc. Those are both individual, those are both distinct things that come together in your identity, obviously, but those are distinct identities. A lot of people will just say that, oh, I'm, heterosexual, bisexual, homosexual, whatever, and people will assume that romance is tied to that, but that's not always true. Not even just in asexual people, in allosexual people. Like, you can be sexually attracted to, like, a certain gender, person, whatever, but not be romantically attracted to them, and vice versa. You can be romantically attracted while not being sexually attracted. They're two distinct things. I'll get into that more another time, but the concept around asexuals not loving or not feeling as much is astonishing, and also just kind of really hammers home how heteronormative our society is and how ammonormative it is, which is prioritizing romance. Because the idea that a sexual and romantic relationship are more important or are more intimate than, a roommate who you spend every evening with and have a great time with. Like, the idea that a romantic or sexual relationship is higher than a platonic relationship or any other kind of relationship is just false and really, really damaging for a lot of people, because then they prioritize sexual and romantic relationships above every other relationship when it doesn't have to be. For some people, those will be more important relationships. Like, romance and sex are obviously important to people. So, for some people, their romantic and sexual relationship and or will be like the most important relationship in their life. And that's perfectly fine. But that's not everyone. And assuming that that's everyone is the issue. Assuming that someone's romantic relationship or someone's sexual relationship is the most important relationship in their life. I'm getting hoarse. What the heck? Assuming that that's the most important relationship in their life, it's really damaging. Because friends are great. Roommates are great. Family's great. So many other types of relationships, other than sexual and romantic, are great. So, I think that's all I have to say, really. So, I could go on longer, but I feel like this video is already longer than it should be. So, I'll stop there. I probably already repeated myself too much, but it's fine. So yeah, that's all. If you have any other like questions or myths or misconceptions you want me to cover in the future, comment them down below. If you have anything else to say, comment them down below. I might respond directly to comments, like if they're questions and that kind of stuff, or I might save them for a future video. So, because I don't plan on not doing any more of these. I enjoy doing this, and I enjoy getting to kind of, I don't know, talk about something that's important to me, as well as furthering the awareness of the asexual community. And I'll eventually get to cover a romantic, since Ace Week I wanted to be a bit more precise in my topic. So yeah, so I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you got something out of it, learned something new, learned a different way to phrase it. I'll have some resources in the description. And yeah, so thank you for watching, and I'll see you around.